Today we are making a picture of a polar bear wearing a sweater. This is a wintry picture. We will be combining materials for a mixed media project that uses oil pastels. These are chunky oil pastels that have been very well loved by my students. And chalk to draw our design. And we will also switch over to using some painting materials such as paper towels, paint brushes, a water cup, and assorted paint colors. You will notice that in this assortment of paint colors, all of the colors have had white added to them. So we will be talking about painting with tints to get really nice, frosty, pale pastel colors. Let's start by drawing our design. So the reason to use chalk is that it works very well on, this is a color construction paper, which gives us a blue background right away. But it also is easy to paint over, draw over, or even erase or smudge away if we need to. So our polar bear is going to have a very simple shape to start, a very tall rainbow or arch shape. And this is going to be a head and shoulders polar bear, so we're not going to worry about the rest of the polar bear's body just yet. Our polar bear also has two ears. The ears use a similar shape. And our polar bear can be wearing a very small hat since it's winter, with a pom-pom or tassel. And then our sweater line, so right about there, might go out a little bit beyond our original line, give our sweater a thick collar. And our polar bear's snout is a very central feature for our polar bear. So it's going to start almost like a gumdrop shape, and then a upside down triangle in the middle of that. And our polar bear is happy. He likes the cold weather. So our polar bear also has two round eyes, and that is the basic design for our polar bear. So we are ready to start adding some color with our oil pastels. Okay. So I'm going to start with the white, start coloring in my polar bear's fur. And polar bear's fur looks white, so most of my bear is going to use this white oil pastel. The nice thing about oil pastel on this construction paper is that it gives a little bit of texture to the fur, because you can still see some of that blue underneath. Okay. And the other nice thing about oil pastel is that it blends very well. So if I did some blue inside the ears and then switched to white on top, I get this nice frosty pastel blue. And I can do that same thing to the polar bear's muzzle. You may have noticed that the polar bear's mouth has disappeared, but that's okay because I can add it back in this next part where I color in and redraw the polar bear's nose. I can use that same black oil pastel to redraw and add back the polar bear's mouth. And while I'm at it, I can add the polar bear's eyes. And I think since it's so cold out, I'm going to give my polar bear some rosy cheeks. Okay, now before I switch over to using paint, I want to get some textures on my polar bear's hat. And I can do that using an oil pastel. It's great for adding a pattern or a design. And even add a few highlights to the polar bear's eyes. Okay, I think that's going to be it for the oil pastel. So now I'm going to switch over to using my paints. So for my paints, I think I'm going to start by mixing a very light colored magenta mixed with this white. See what happens. And I can wipe off any of that extra paint that's on my brush, because I don't need a lot of paint on my brush. And I can use that to now paint my polar bear's hat. And the oil pastel that I put down earlier should still show through. I'll use that color as well for part of my polar bear shirt. Okay. Now I'm going to clean off my brush. This one had a lot of paint on it from using it to mix the color. And then wash it off. And wipe it again. Maybe one more time in the water. There we go. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to actually go with a lighter green color. I'm going to mix that up. And start painting. Now some paints tend to cover up the oil pastel, which is a little bit frustrating because I didn't think it would do that. But I can still work with it. I still like the way that looks, even though it did cover up a lot more of the oil pastel than I expected. So I'm going to just go with it. Now, a really fun thing to do with any kind of a winter drawing or painting, especially with kids, is to add some snowflakes in the background. And the easiest way that I like to do this is to use the bottoms of paintbrushes. And these have 3 different sizes, so I can get 3 different size snowflakes. I'm just going to use regular white paint and dip my brush in. The end of the brush, not the normal painting side, and the larger circle size gives us larger snowflake shapes or snowflake dots. And then there's a medium size. And this one's a very snowy picture. A lot of snowflakes. And then a very, very small size. You can go even smaller if you were to use the end of a toothpick. Get really tiny, tiny, tiny snowflakes. Might be a blizzard. Okay, so after I've used the ends of my paintbrushes to make snowflakes, I want to make sure that I wipe them off. We don't want any unexpected paint getting on our hands or somebody else's hands if they're using the paintbrushes after us. So we want to make sure we clean those completely. And that is how you can make a simple project of a polar bear wearing a sweater.